Okay, it's Tuesday, October 4th. This is a pre-open SPY video, pretty early here before the open, about 3 hours to go before trading begins. But you can see here from the blue lines, and if I go to the 1 minute chart, price is gapping up pretty big this morning here. So far, here's the range that's developing. We have a while to go. You can see here from yesterday, we moved up nicely all day long and kind of closed here. I'm pretty happy because at the end of the session, I bought a whole bunch of SPY 365 calls that closed at 595, so they should open up nicely this morning. I'm anticipating that we kind of hold this area somewhere in here and follow through a little bit to the upside. But then the question is, there's a lot of interesting things here in terms of what's developing. First of all, as I've discussed before, or in the closing video yesterday, now that we're gapping up here right to this next target, you can see here that's going to trigger the 2-up weekly chart. So once you have a 2-up weekly chart early on Tuesday, you have all day, really 4 full days of trading to get all the way up to the top of the next range. And it's possible that may happen, but it's also possible we're in a gap area here that between the low of this bar and the high of this bar. That's kind of a gap in here, and I'll go to it in a little more detail in a second, but this could be an area where we could fail. I'm not saying to fail right away, and I wouldn't go short immediately, but it could be an area to monitor to go short in time, because I still think on the monthly chart, which we've discussed, it's just a red bar. We just had the first day of October yesterday. Second day will be up a little bit, but at some point, given this red bar, if you were going to look at that on the chart and project ahead, you would think you get a little follow through to the downside. So there could be some and there's still targets down here, the yellow line. So, I mean, it's still exciting in time to think of some kind of short that may develop. The question is how is it going to develop here? If we go 2 up on this weekly chart, all of a sudden what that means is in some form for the next 3-4 days, we're going to have to get some action up here, and then this bar is going to close either with a big green bar or maybe a bar that has a bit of a shooter look to it by the end of the week, and then you're going to have to start at the midpoint of this week next week and head lower. And once that heads lower, maybe into next week, and you take out the opening price right here, this is kind of the key area. I discussed the open of the week, which was the open of the month, and the open of the day yesterday. That when that turns red, that means the weekly and daily and or the monthly chart anyway is going to turn red, and then you can look for new lows down here eventually. But we'll see the failure here with some kind of 2 up, 2 down, whether it's on the daily chart, the weekly. We'll look for that. So that's a ways away. When I really zoom this in now in terms of what could happen in the very short, immediate kind of play here, we are broadening out to the upside. It looks like the top of this blue line is at the top of this range. That's kind of what I was anticipating buying these calls to begin with. When I saw this kind of action in here and we moved up to the halfway point, I kind of anticipated at least getting up here. But then the question is, if I look at the hourly chart, which I just zoomed in, there's a little gap in here which we're going to fill. So that kind of is up near the top of this red line, and we could be heading up there 375, 377 maybe today. And then this area right here looks like the next stop. If we want to take one out, and I could see maybe doing that. Again, that's a 377 area. There's a nice gap in here which price could fill before turning lower. So it's hard to say where it's going to go today. Do we just take out this stop, or this high right here and immediately fail? It's unlikely, but I would give it. I think, in other words, today you're going to get some follow through the upside in some form. If we open up, let's say in this range, and we start a little lower red, people sell it off right away. I would do a red to green move and look at the first, see if we can get above this, whatever this high pre-market high is, and see if we can get a first move of the day kind of push. Maybe that could be a good trade. If we open up big, green in some form and immediately head up, well, then we got to kind of just see how that first push, how far it goes. And the only thing that could happen today in terms of a failure would be some kind of push up that then comes down and takes out the intraday low, maybe projects down to this area. We get a big failure day, big reversal. Let's go back to the daily chart. And then we maybe you could if some crazy development happens here intraday, you might want to take a short trade projecting down here to start and seeing what kind of a close we get. If it's a big shooter red bar, then maybe we're getting the follow through lower, tomorrow, Wednesday, or to take out this open and turn the week red. But I'm not anticipating that. I still think I'm more interested to see how high we want to go and how the follow through. It might be a little tricky day trading given we're gapping up so much to get a little squeeze more out of it, but maybe not. I mean, again, go back on that daily chart. We had this big momentum move here for 4 days before it came down. So it's very possible we're going to broaden out above here and kind of work our way up to, if you look at it like a trend line kind of thing up here, we could be heading right into this area, 377, 378, and we're at 373 right now. So we'll just have to, as always, follow 15-minute price action near the open relative to these pre-market highs and lows. There should be some follow through. I think the opening will remain strong. I'm anticipating that. I'd be surprised if we really sell off big before this, but you never know. We'll see. What the good news is, if we open up in the middle of this, whatever range this is, and you get a green bar, expect to take out these highs. So that could be a good short-term trade. Scale out, at no risk, and see if you can get that follow through up to 377-ish, that kind of thing. So it actually would be pretty nice if we do come down a little bit, and then that'll give us some room to set up a trade to take out those highs, because I think that it should happen wherever highs develop here. There's enough room and enough potential follow through in the short run to get up higher today. So we'll anticipate that, but let's just see how it opens as always. And again, it's becoming an interesting scenario, but it was high probability, at least the way I saw it, that you were going to get some follow through in this broadening area before we head lower to take out some stops, and that's why I bought some calls. So we'll see how much follow through we get today. It's an interesting day, Tuesday, and again, you never know. We could be getting a few days of this, and a lot of people seem to be on, at least on the news, whatever that means, calling a bottom and thinking we're going to have a big 3 months heading up. I still think in the big picture, in October anyway, we're going to at some point fail. I'd be surprised and take out the lows of that bar at some point in October. But who knows? Maybe we'll have a big inside bar here to turn. I don't want to get into it now. I'll do it to turn this monthly chart around. It's going to take a long time. Even if we rally big all month, it's still just nothing. It's still an inside bar probably, and until we get some kind of green and 2 up, that's what's going to turn the long-term trend up. So we're so far away from that. Don't want to talk about it. But anyway, let's just see how we'll take out this weekly high, get a 2 up week, and let's now monitor this gap and this, reaching our target and either reaching it or failing, and what that can mean as the days and weeks, go on in terms of either continuing or then possibly reversing and heading lower to take out some of these lows here that were established, at the end of last month.